Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be talking about, well, some ways of how life imitates sports. Now, I'm going to have another number of examples, a myriad of examples, actually. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, okay, let's say that your NFL team or pro football team scores a conciliatory touchdown in the final seconds. Okay, now for example, let's say, okay, your team is down 21-7, right? And then they come back, they get a very late touchdown, 21-14. It is after that touchdown and the game ends. Well, that almost reminds me of, it's like kind of like somebody cons you out of some money and you feel, okay, I'll cuss them out or I'll punch them out and that'll make things right. And the reality is it didn't change anything. It might have made you feel better. It might have made you feel more respectable, but it didn't really change the final outcome. So I think that's one interesting comparison, or I guess you could say maybe a metaphor. Now, let's take another example. Let's say that somebody wins a marathon, right? And they emerge victorious. And the thing about what this reminds me of is a lot of times that people run a marathon, they're not always strong starters in every instance, but they're strong finishers. I don't remember the exact quote that legendary NBA player Michael Jordan made, but it was something to the effect, it's not how you start, it's having something in you to finish. And it really, I think it's a kind of like in life too. You could take somebody that was in high school that got really abhorrent grades, and then they wound up really doing something superlative with their lives. I mean, didn't Albert Einstein, didn't he have some troubles in school? And he went on to become a genius and became very renowned for it. So the thing about and really, I think I mean, for so many people, I think that is so true, it's not even funny. Now let's take another example. Let's say you have somebody in pro basketball blocking an attempted shot, right? Which a lot of people refer to as a rejection as well. Now, in life, we're often rejected in manifold ways. Some people are condemned, some are ostracized, some are looked down upon just because of their lifestyle. I mean, imagine this in Nashville, Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of the top cities in terms of frowning on marginalized society. So, I mean, I could kind of understand that. And when somebody blocks a basketball, I mean, when you're on that receiving end, you almost feel kind of demoralized when, as a player, I would imagine, after your shot attempt gets blocked. And you feel that way, I think, a lot of cases when you're rejected in life by people. Well, here's another example. Let's say in pro football, you have a player on a team that runs the wrong way and inadvertently scores a touchdown for another team. It winds up becoming a safety. The most, I don't know if you want to call famous or infamous case, could very well be when Jim Marshall did this many years ago. And the thing about this is, it's kind of like when you go the wrong way in life, when you take an errant or erroneous path, a lot of times, you don't have that turning back. And if you're locked up for a pretty good amount of time, it really, it can leave, the record itself, I guess, could leave a permanent blemish on someone's life. And sometimes when people go a certain way in life, they just have such a hard time really making a reversal in that, so to speak. And once, like in pro football, you make that touchdown for that other team, it's like you get penalized at 2 points or whatever. It's really essentially, it's a safety for the other team, and you can't take that back. A lot of times when people go in a corrupt or crooked path in life, they don't ever turn back, sadly. Now another example is, now many of you may have heard in Major League Baseball or baseball that you have the 3 strikes and you're out. If you get whether it's a called strikes or combination of called strikes and missing the ball, trying to hit it, it's the 3 strikes and you're out policy, so to speak. Well, it's interesting there. I think in the judicial system they have I don't know if it's implemented everywhere, but I know at least in some states they have something called the 3 strikes law, and I guess it's pertaining to if you commit, commit the same crime on the third occasion, the punishment could be much stronger than the first or second one. And really, it's kind of like in baseball, you have the 3 strikes and you're out rule. You have 3 strikes and you're out policies. I'm sure, in considering all the jobs out there in places of employment, you do 3 strong mishaps, then you're out. They maybe some people have some tardy policy. If you're not punctual, you have 3 being late 3 times in a certain period. Maybe you're terminated, something like that. So it applies in a lot of ways in life. Now, another interesting thing is, okay, in Major League Baseball, they have something called a sacrifice fly, and when that happens, it's really like when you have when a batter basically helps a teammate score, but at the same time he relinquishes an opportunity for an actual, perhaps official at bat. He gets a plate appearance or an opportunity. He really deprives himself of an opportunity for himself to possibly score. So, but when in life, we make multitude of sacrifices a lot, some, of course, more than others. Sometimes we sacrifice our time, whether it's helping a friend, collaborating on a project, doing something where we're not getting paid just to really, just to help somebody out, just like humanitarian or selfless acts, if you will. So those are, some things to look at. And really, salary managers would understand that sometimes they put extended hours in and work extensively, and they're not getting any extra money for it. So there are things, and really another example could be, now let's take an obstacle course. Now, if you have an obstacle course, well, obstacle course can have a lot of obstructions in it, of course, that need to be conquered. It can consist of whether it's climbing something or swinging on a rope over a little body of water, whether it's running into like a tunnel object or a cylinder-like object. In life, we run into all kinds of obstructions and obstacles. Sometimes we might encounter a debilitating health situation, for example. Maybe a family member is debilitated, and we get that distraction, kind of, we got to help this person out, and it takes us away from our own egocentric interests and things that we're trying to do to really enhance our own lives. So that's another example. Another example, too, interestingly, is the game of the sport of dodgeball. And the thing about it is, in dodgeball, you're constantly trying to dodge and get out of the way and evade the ball when it's coming toward you. Now, interestingly enough, of course, you've got politicians that will often dodge certain issues, and they'll avoid certain issues for whatever reasons, because they don't feel, maybe by answering them, they might feel it might somehow put a blemish on them, or it might ruin maybe others thinking of them, and maybe they feel if they give an answer to it, it might do something to make them not look as good in the eyes of others, or somebody's confronting them over negative on them. A lot of times they will dodge the issue, so to speak, because they just don't want to say anything to perhaps that might possibly confirm maybe what they're saying is true about them. Now, another example, I think, in sports, you have a lot of instances when you're defending a goal, say whether it's in soccer or hockey, etc. And in life, sometimes we have to defend ourselves against slanderous lies, against defamation of character. Sometimes we're put in situations where we have to physically defend ourselves against some petulant person that has nothing better to do than really maybe to even come at us physically, and really whether it's a drunkard or what have you. So we really, the thing about it is, in sports, when you don't defend your goal properly, you're going to get scored against. And sometimes in life, a lot of times people will say that you need to ignore some negativity from others and slanderous lies. Well, the problem is, sometimes if we don't defend ourselves, it allows them to get a score on us, so to speak, and it could hurt us the way a goalkeeper allows a goal into the net, because it can be to the person's detriment. It's to the goalkeeper's detriment, because another goal is tacked on for the other team and increases their chances of winning. The problem is, if we don't defend ourselves against certain things in life, well, we know nobody else, in most instances, others will not defend it, stick up for us. And really what it does is, sometimes if you don't defend something, it's to our detriment, because others may believe it to be true if we don't respond to it in some instances. Now, another thing is, I think in Major League Baseball, I'm sure many of you have heard of a stolen base, when a player steals a base. We have theft that goes on in life constantly. You have you have identification theft, burglary, robberies. You have people breaking into homes. I think the man upstairs for the Wi-Fi doorbell. I think that's kind of a deterrent now to some degree when people do have that, that is one of the things that help. But when you steal a base in baseball, you got to be sometimes maybe a little bit surreptitious. You got to maybe make it look like that you're not going to steal it, and then just kind of come out of nowhere and steal the base and catch the opposing team off guard. And in life, when people steal things, they act in a lot of times in a very stealth-like manner as well. The real people, real sneaky, that are the ones that do this a lot. Now, another thing too is that when another comparison I like to make as far as something connected with sports and then in life, is that in sports, a lot of times you don't have, when you're, like, say you're an opposing team and you're going to another team's location to play them, you can often have a vociferous crowd, which causes a distraction or diversion. Now in life, a lot of times we have manifold distractions. We have people that will constantly ask us for this, ask us for that. We're trying to attain our own goals and our own aspirations and our own objectives, and trying to finish certain tasks. But a lot of times we'll have those persistent people that will keep asking us for this and that, and really just, I guess you could say, the users, so to speak. So you have in life, you have those distractions, but in sports, you have the vociferous crowd in sports that try to distract you. Like, say if you're in basketball and you're trying to take a shot, people yelling and getting boos cascading from the crowd, taunting you, maybe sometimes anything to cause that distraction and decrease your chance of making that shot. Or same thing could apply, for example, in baseball, somebody's at bat trying to hit the ball. So anyway, well, what I want to close with is just simply and succinctly is that, you know what, life is a sport, I think, in its own way. I think we play it vigorously, play it with a lot of passion and intensity, but also play it with integrity, and play it right by the rules and don't break them. Well, anyway, people, this is Edwin Learnard, and until next time, stay well.